the Bible, not merely right conduct, but right thinking on all subjects in every department of life. As we study the Sermon on the Mount, we shall find every clause in it reiterating the great truth that outside things are but the expression or outpicturing of our inner thoughts and beliefs. The great law of the universe is just this: what you think in your mind, you will produce in your experience. As within, so without. You cannot think one thing and produce another. If you want to control your circumstances for harmony and happiness, you must first control your thoughts for harmony and happiness, and then the outer things will follow. If you want health, you must first think health. And remember, thinking health does not mean merely thinking a healthy body, important as that is, but also includes thinking peace and contentment and goodwill towards all. If you want spiritual unfoldment and growth in the knowledge of God, you must think spiritual thoughts, God thoughts, and give your attention, which is your life, to God rather than to limitation. I'm going to read through today's affirmation, and then I'll invite you to stand and join me. I am hungry for good, thirsty for fulfillment, and I am amply satisfied by the banquet table of life. I release any old habits of discouragement, self-condemnation, contempt, regret, or jealousy, and I effortlessly engage in right thinking, harmonious, easy thoughts of love, grace, justice, and peace for myself and for my world. Before we stand and declare this together, I do have to tell you that we changed the affirmation a little bit this week, and I see the changes didn't get in my copy here, and it didn't get there. If you're reading from your card, your words will be slightly different. Don't worry about it, just read, okay? Just read what is there for you, and because it's really the energetic with which we speak the word, right? All right, please stand and join me, whatever your card says. I am hungry for good, thirsty for fulfillment, and I am amply satisfied by the banquet table of life. I release any old habits of discouragement, self-condemnation, contempt, regret, or jealousy, and I effortlessly engage in right thinking, harmonious, easy thoughts of love, grace, justice, and peace for myself and for my world. And so it is. We are seriously blessed, yeah? Have you ever stood in front of the fridge with the door open? Like, what do I want? What am I hungry for? What would satisfy me? And whenever that happens, I almost hear my mother's voice, shut that door! Decide what you want and then open the fridge, yeah? But you know, a lot of times I think that we stand at the refrigerator of life. What do I want? What's going to satisfy me? And you know, it is an interesting thing. As I stand there with the door open, I am wasting energy, aren't I, to the refrigerator? All the cold is dissipating into the warmth of the house. And you know, it's the same way when I stand at the refrigerator of life, the universal refrigerator, and I say, oh, what do I want? I don't know. What's going to really taste good? I don't know what to pick. And let me say, no, not that. Not that. The energy is being dissipated, isn't it? The energy that is available to us to do something productive and powerful with our lives is simply slipping away into nothingness while we just keep standing there. Is this familiar to anyone besides me? Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Oh, I think I'll have a little righteousness. What? That seems kind of weird, doesn't it? Righteousness? I mean, it's an interesting word, isn't it? Because, we talk about, like he's a righteous dude or, stuff like, and it has a positive connotation. But then we talk about, oh, she's so righteous, I don't want to hang out with her, right? I mean, we kind of don't want to be around people who are have this really kind of righteous attitude. But once again, I thought it might be useful for us to really understand what that word means. So I looked it up in the dictionary. And what did I learn? Well, if you look up righteous in the dictionary, it gives some definitions, but mostly what it says is see right. So I went and I looked up right, which is another dangerous word, isn't it? Here's what I learned. Right is good, proper, just. Good, proper, just. Correct in opinion, action, or judgment. Well, maybe that's not such a weird word after all. Good, proper, just. Correct in opinion, action, or judgment. Let me think about that a little bit. And let's look at the Latin root for that word. The Latin root for that word actually means, are you ready? To straighten. If something is right, it is straight. Isn't that interesting? You think about it, things are plumb and true, you know what I mean? It's like you straighten things out. They are right. Hunger and thirst for that which is good, that which is proper, that which is just. Hunger and thirst for that which is correct in opinion, action, and judgment. And what? What is the promise? You will be filled. You will be satisfied. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm hungering and thirsting for Oreo cookies and milk. But does that truly satisfy me? And sometimes I'm hungering and thirsting for the worldly equivalent of Oreo and cookies and milk, right? Sometimes I'm hungering and thirsting for, TV or things that are not necessarily good, proper, or just. Things that don't feed my soul. But if I hunger and thirst for that which is good, proper, or just, the teacher Jesus promises me, I will be filled. I will be filled, not temporarily. I will be filled. I will be satisfied. And so will you if you do the same. Because, God doesn't care who you are. I'm not special. You're not special. It's done unto all of us in the same way. I can't remember who it was. Some wise person said, God is no respecter of persons. God is no respecter of persons. The universe works in the same way for you that it works for me, and it works in the same way for your neighbor that you love, and it works in the same way for your neighbor that you don't love, that it works for you. So let us seek after that which is good and right and proper and just. You see, we must straighten out our thinking. We must straighten out our thinking. Wow. I was thinking of like a ribbon or something. If you cut off a long length of ribbon and then you just let it sit in your hand, it's not very useful, is it? But if you take an end and you begin to straighten it out, you can tie a box with it, make it look beautiful. You could use it for a finish line. You could jump rope with it. There's all kinds of things that you can do with something that is straightened out that you cannot do with something that is in a clump. And if your life looks like a clump, confusion, piles of stuff, feeling out of control about the things that are happening in your life, you must straighten out your thinking, straighten out your life. It's a natural process. So let's talk about how that process works a little bit, shall we? Now, this is New Thought 101. You've heard this from this pulpit before. You've probably heard it from my mouth. You've heard it from the mouths of many, many ministers. But I don't know about you. I have to keep hearing it. I still go to classes and workshops that teach me this because I need to keep hearing it. I get fooled by the world of effect and somehow think that my experience of life is dictated by what's out there. But the fact is, not even the fact, the spiritual truth is, my experience is dictated by what's going on here and here. Here and here. Our experience does not dictate our experience. How we think about our experience dictates our experience. Wow, that's a profound spiritual truth. And if we can walk in confidence, straighten out our thinking, such that we understand how we think about what's happening impacts what's happening, we can begin to have a straightened out experience of life. And then we can use life as a jump rope or a finish line or to wrap a box and make it pretty. How fun is that? Jesus taught, "It is done unto you as you believe." This is the core of this message. Right thinking. We must think rightly because it is done unto us as we believe. So how does that work? Well, beautiful, amazing Garnet just taught us in the song, didn't she? Let there be. Let there be light. Let there be love. Let there be grace. Let there be peace in my heart and in my mind, and I will experience peace in the world. Bottom line. What? That can't be. Because look at all my evidence that there's not peace in the world. Anybody see a lot of evidence that there's not peace in the world? Do not be fooled by your human vision. Peace begins right here in my mind and in my heart. If I am an embodiment of peace, I will not experience anything unlike peace. And if enough of us are an embodiment of peace, we will not experience anything unlike peace. Our whole problem and the reason we have the appearance of dis-ease or conflict or injustice is just not enough of us get it yet. We'll get it. We are on our way to world peace. We have to be willing to see it. We have to be willing to be the place where peace can show up. We have to have peace in our own hearts, peace in our own homes, peace in our own families. Is that true for you? Is there perfect peace in your heart, in your home, in your family, in your community? Start there. Start there. And then we can have peace in the world. When enough communities, when enough individuals are doing the work, peace is a natural result because consciousness is cause. Consciousness is cause. And it's an interesting thing because not only is consciousness cause, it's kind of like, we teach what we call the law of cause and effect, don't we? Cause creates an effect in the world, but the new physics has taught us that isn't always so. It's an interesting thing to think about. The new physics has taught us how we see things. The light might travel as a wave or as a particle, depending on whether we're looking for a wave or a particle, right? And the new physics has taught us that maybe there isn't such a thing as time. Do you see, in a realm where there's no time, consciousness isn't cause because consciousness is only cause when there's time because it has to happen earlier than the effect, right? So I guess how I'm starting to think about the law of cause and effect is that it's like new thought training wheels. These are the training wheels that we got to use for a while to recognize the power of our consciousness to create something new, but then we have to expand our thinking and understand there is a greater idea as well. There is a great impulsion in the universal presence toward good, toward love, toward grace, toward power, and it is magnetic and it is pulling us. Which is a pretty divine idea because that's how I can lift myself out of the muck and mire of my human experience because something is pushing me and at the same time that something is pulling me so that I can open my heart to a bigger idea. Isn't that interesting to think about that way? That I am not stuck in a timeline of cause and effect. I'm not stuck in that. That there is something greater than I am that is pulling me toward it. There is no time in God. And so I use the law of cause and effect, it is done unto me as I believe, as training wheels to get me past what seems to be in the earthly realm. And to begin to teach me that I have power over my experience of life. And then I transcend the need to have that power, and that power simply flows through me and as me. It's interesting trying to put words on these things, isn't it? Because we're talking about cosmic principles. And we have an intuitive experience of the divine, don't we? It's not a worldly experience. We have an intuitive experience of the divine. We have to transcend the earthly experience and be open and available. That's why we do this invocation every week. We lift ourselves in consciousness into God's consciousness so that we can open our hearts and minds in a new way to an experience of spiritual truth. And we experience awakening. Have you ever had an aha moment where something suddenly became clear to you? That's an experience. It's an aha experience. It's experiencing God in a new way, with a new thought, with a new awareness, and we stretch our awareness a little more. And that's something that is calling us. And in the meantime, for our training wheels, we are using the law of cause and effect to recognize it is done out there as we believe here and feel here. Take a breath with me. But what about my story? But what about? I want to share with you, this is my favorite quote, and some of you have heard me share this before, from Ernest Holmes, page 52. Here's what he says about this law that always says yes, this spiritual truth, that it is done unto us as we believe. If we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. I'm going to say that again. The let there be love, let there be peace, let there be joy. If we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. In other words, you can say this is a bunch of hooey, and the law says, you're right, it's a bunch of hooey. That's right. And for us, then, we will experience it as a bunch of hooey. But we have to straighten out our thinking. We have the most amazing teacher in Jesus who said to us, it is done unto us as we believe, if we hunger and thirst after right thinking, if we hunger and thirst after that which is right, which is just, which is good, we will be satisfied. So here we stand at the fridge of life. What are you hungry for? That which is good, that which is just, that which is right, that which is proper. I want to put before you the idea that the only thing for us to be hungry for at the universal refrigerator is God. Because God is that which is just, that which is right, that which is proper. God is the great impetus toward good. It is the universal presence of love. It is the universal presence of grace and power. It is wholeness and health and healing and wellness and good. It is that which is good and proper and just, and it will always drive us toward right opinion, right action, right judgment as we align with it. We got to straighten out our thinking, put God first, and all else is added unto us. Now, what do I mean by I got to want God more than anything? You know, it finally came to me probably about 20 years ago that what I really wanted more than anything was to understand the universe. I wanted to understand how the universe works, why it works that way, and what my place is in the universe. And when I made that my priority, my study, my practice, all else really was added unto me. See, when I say you want God more than anything, it's not, the guy in the chair that I'm talking about. It's not the judgmental God that is going to make you wrong somehow. It is the God that is proper and just and good and grace and power and love. I want that understanding of how those things can manifest in my life and in our collective life more than anything. I want to understand the universe, how it works, the deepest nature of things, my relationship to all of that, my deepest nature. That's what I'm talking about when I say you want God more than anything. And that you will put that first. That is right thinking. That is straightening out our thinking. And then I begin to measure every thought in my head against that standard. Is this a God thought? Would God think this? Oh, I'm so tired. There's not enough. That person, this thing, my story, all the reasons I can't have what I want. Is that a God thought? Is that going to help me understand the nature of the universe more fully? You see, we have to ask more quality questions, don't we? We ask questions like, oh, why me? This is happening to me again, really? Or how come the people out there are doing things the way they do? I can't believe them. See, we have to ask quality questions. The quality question is, I'm having this experience again. What is the nature of this experience here to teach me so that I don't have to be there again? I see people behaving badly out in the world. What is the nature of love? And how can I be more loving and do my part in shifting the collective behavior out in the world? See, we begin to ask ourselves more quality questions that actually reveal the true nature of the universe, reveal my deepest nature, my place in the universe, and what is mine to do, and helps us cultivate those quality God thoughts that take us to the next level. Are you in with me? Yes. Can we be about that? Yes. And we're not about that, just when we remember, but we are about that all the time. And we are about that kind of thinking and that kind of behaving here in our community. That we don't blame and we don't look for stories to tell and we don't gossip and we don't rah. No, what is a quality question I can ask about this situation? How would God show up in this situation? What is the nature of love here? What does grace look like? How can I be more grace-filled? See, we're straightening out our thinking, and our behavior follows. We are driven to right action because it starts here, and it starts here. Breathing again with me. So we got to be hungry for God. And the promise is that we will be satisfied. And notice that Jesus doesn't say, and you might be satisfied. He doesn't say you might be filled. He says you will be filled. That's like a legal contract, right? You know the difference in a contract between might and should or shall? I love that word shall. You will be satisfied. And so it felt important to me to understand that word satisfied. What does that mean? There's 2 Latin roots for that word. This is really good stuff, you guys. Satis. Ooh, heavens. Do you need me to go to a handheld? No? Okay. Satis is the first part of satisfied, right? Remember, the word sated, like I've had plenty to eat? So satis is sufficient or enough. Even more interesting, facere, satisfaction, satis, and facere. Facere means to do, to make, and it holds the connotation of an act of creation. We must be willing to walk in an attitude, a consciousness of satisfaction. I am satisfied and complete right now. And in this way, we create the experience of enoughness. We straighten out our thinking, create the experience of enoughness by declaring and knowing and embodying in our minds and in our hearts, I am satisfied with the world in which I walk. I am satisfied right now. I do not let the realm of appearances that look so dissatisfying. I straighten out my thinking and I am willing to be satisfied right now. And the law says, yes, and you are satisfied. But as long as I'm like, things are bad, I'm not satisfied, I'm not filled up, I'm standing in front of the fridge, there's nothing in here for me, I don't know what I want, it's not good, I don't know how to do it. The universe says, yes. I have not yet straightened out my thinking, engaged in right thinking, hungered and thirsted after righteousness, filled myself with right thinking. And part of my right thinking is I am already satisfied, perfect, whole, and complete right now. Take another breath. What do you really want as you stand before life? What do you really want? Satisfaction and completeness? Light, love, grace, power? Think from that place. Live from that place. Straighten out your thinking, and all will be well with you. So let's turn within. As we seal this message with the sacred word of truth, recognizing and knowing right here and right now that there is only one life. And the infinite essence of the universal presence that we call God, this is that life. It abides deep at the core in the center of our beings. We sprung from it. We are of it. We are made in its image and likeness. We cannot be separate from it. And so I invite you right now as you stand before your life, as you stand before the universal presence that you already are, I invite you in your heart and in your mind to see yourself satisfied, to see yourself perfect, whole, complete, to see yourself the essence of grace, of power, to see yourself immersed in the mind of God, immersed in an awareness of right thinking, allowing God's thought to be your thought, allowing God's mind to be your mind, allowing God's presence to be your presence. You open yourself more fully than you ever have before to this awareness. And you feel every cell in your body just straightening out, coming into alignment with truth. You feel every muscle and every bone and every sinew simply relaxing into this truth. And you take the sacred breath once again and you realize that you have been transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you walk in righteousness, in right thinking, allowing that power and that presence to be you by your allowing. by your surrendering, by your awakening to the spiritual truth